Hello again, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of the Grape Escape Live at Enotria&Co. So on to Trimbach, which is why you're all here. So Trimbach, almost synonymous with Alsace Riesling, is arguably, certainly in my view, one of the world's greatest wineries. But at the same time, it can often be quite an unsung hero, I think, for many people who love wine. So we're going to talk all about that. It dates back to, wait for it, 1626. So that is nearly 400 years. Take note, Americans, this is real history. I can say that, by the way, because I'm half American. So it dates back to 1626, but it wasn't until around, it wasn't until the 19th century when they really gained recognition under the guidance of Frederick Emile, which many of you will know is one of their iconic top cuvées. They own sites in a handful of Grand Cru vineyards, and they really made their reputation by producing their very much remarkably dry, steely wines, not sweet, very dry wines, always with a very sort of mineral character and a purity of flavour. The jewel in their crown is without doubt the Clos Sainte-Une. So I'll let Anne perhaps tell a little bit more about that later. And if you dig around in your case, I can tell you now, you're not going to find it. But the Clos Sainte-Une is still today arguably one of the best expressions of Riesling in the world. So on to Anne Trimbach, who I shall invite just in a second. Hello, everyone. Hello, Jason. Hello, Louise Hayward. Hello, everyone. Good to see you all joining. So I'm going to talk about Anne Trimbach. So Anne, alongside her cousin Julien, both of them represent the 13th generation of Trimbachs working at the winery, which is quite amazing. And Anne has been working at the winery for 12 years now. She divides her time between working in the vineyards, in the cellar, but also she's out in the market, she's out on the road, and she's really focusing on sort of spreading all of the Trimbach love. And despite belonging to what's quite a sort of aristocratic wine family, the Trimbachs are some of the most humble people you'll ever meet. And Anne is as down to earth as it gets, a lovely person and incredibly passionate. And I am going to invite her on now. So just bear with me.
Good evening.
Bonsoir. Good evening,
Bonsoir.
Anne.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Great. I'm ready.
You're ready? I'm ready too. Cheers. Well, my glass is a bit fuller than yours. Right, so I'm going to kick off. I'm going to start with just a few questions for you before we get into the tasting. So my first question is really around your family, because it's an amazing story of family business, of winemaking, one of the greatest. But I'd be really interested to know from you, having grown up around the heritage of Trimbach, at what point did you really fully appreciate the sort of legendary status of Trimbach and the wines?
I think most of us from this new generation, the 13th generation, has been pretty much included since we were very, very young. We thought we were helping at the winery when we were young, but we were probably messing around more than anything else. We were there, and I grew up at the winery, so basically I knew what I wanted to do when I was a pretty young kid. So let's say forever.
Forever. And do you feel that there's like a burden on you? There must be a sense of responsibility to have that on your shoulders. How does that feel?
12 years ago, not that much, because I was learning, but the time goes on, and of course it's not a burden, but you know that it's something that you have on the shoulders, and if you want to continue and make it evolve the right way, of course there are important things to do. And yes, a burden could be a good word, actually.
And you do, I know you do a lot of things, so you're kind of a polymath. You're a master of many areas in the winery. So you work in the winery, but you're also out in market. How do you balance your time?
I was traveling more than I used. more than I do right now because I have a 4-year-old at home.
Me too.
But I still travel a lot, and I welcome lots of people when they visit the winery. Hopefully it will come back very soon. And I'm not as much in the vineyards as you said, but Julien, my cousin, would be more like on the technical side. I come to the cellar, of course, to taste the wines and not to give my advice, because my father has been the winemaker for more than 40 years now, so he basically knows what he does. He doesn't need my advices or whatever.
I'm sure it counts for something, Anne.
We had a meeting today about the future and what we're going to do and the evolution of the winery, and it was extremely positive. So we are all on the same path, let's say.
Yeah. My next question is, we're moving on to Riesling because you are Miss Riesling this evening, and I better get in trouble for saying this, but so obviously Enotria&Co, we're in sales. We've worked with Trimbach for over 10 years, and we all love your wines, and we sell a great deal of them. Probably not enough, but we're working on that too. But Riesling is it's not as easy a sell than some other grapes. You know, I think we all know that. So what do you say to people when they say, "Oh, I don't like Riesling"? How do you answer that?
I usually tell them that they must have tried very terrible Riesling, because of course there are terrible Rieslings or terrible Chardonnay or whatever it could be, and that they should try to change their mind, because first of all, Riesling to me is amazing because you can have different styles of Riesling. It can be very, very dry to extremely sweet Riesling. The key would be the balance, of course, as always. They match with food wonderfully, and when they come from a wonderful terroir and they have been vinified in the right way, they are able to age quite a long time. So it's unbelievable. And most of people, unfortunately, have this image of Riesling that is going to be too sweet. But it has evolved, and it was true. There has been a trend of like sweeter Riesling in Alsace to, let's say, please everyone's palate at some point, but years and years ago, decades ago, and now it's over. And most of the top wineries that you all know from Alsace have all gone back to a drier style today. And I think that's very important that they retry Rieslings from Alsace, because they would be quite surprised. The younger generations in Alsace have been amazing, have been making amazing progress. Like it's much better today than it used to be. And yes, it's magical, actually. It transports you to another planet.
Well, I'm obviously a huge fan, and a lot of people in the wine trade. I think should be quite a few people in the wine trade who love Riesling as well. But hopefully we're changing people's minds at the same time. So I'm going to sort of hand over to you now, and we're going to talk through the Riesling 2017. And just before you do, I just want to make a note as well. It's one of the things that I love about Trimbach is that you have actually a lot of wines, but each one has a real sense of purpose, real precision, and you have a wine for every single occasion. And I think you have 9 or 10 Rieslings, kind of core Rieslings in the range, around
7, 8, 8,
8,
9. But now one is not released yet. Surprises for the future as well. So yes,
okay. Watch this space. And the reason we're going to taste now is the introduction, I guess, for Riesling in your range. And I think it's a great way to start your journey with Trimbach. So I'm going to let you tell us about the classic Riesling.
Okay. So it's the one you see the most. If you try a small island somewhere, you probably be able to find this wine, because this is a sort of our archetype. Everybody knows this wine almost. And it's also one of the biggest production we produce every year. This wine is, I wouldn't say about terroir, because it comes from many different parcels of vineyards, but it comes from very much a lot of great vineyards, also some Grand Cru vineyards. It includes some Grand Cru parcels as well. So it's a combination of extremely great vineyards.
You don't see many entry point Rieslings that have Grand Cru vineyards in the bottle, so that's quite special.
And this is thanks to my father, I would say, and my grandfather in the old days, because we are producers. We own 58 hectares of vineyards, but we are also negociants, so which means we buy grapes every year. And my father is known as being the top and strictest negociant of Alsace when it comes to quality of grapes. So this is not about, yes, one place, one terroir, but about Riesling, how it should be in our point of view, which means stainless steel vinification, of course, no wood, never. This would be a nightmare to us. Very fresh, very clean, laser-like. Usually the acidity is right there. And yes, it gives you what you need. And of course, in a bone-dry style, year after year after year after year.
And do you, so usually for a kind of a more youthful Riesling like this, you would usually expect with most wines to drink it relatively quickly. Can these age as much as some of the greater Rieslings? Can you put the classic one down, or is it for drinking relatively soon?
I would say both, but not like 20 years. And actually, sometimes you can be surprised. I was surprised not too long ago when I was traveling to Las Vegas. One of the sommeliers I was meeting brought a bottle of 96 classic Riesling, and I was a little stressed because you never know. And the bottle was extremely good. And of course, I don't mean you should do that. This is a wine that when we release it, it's good to drink, and you should keep it, we say, 3 to 5 years maximum. But of course, you can try to keep it more. It's not made for that, but why not?
It's beautiful. It's really zesty and really lemony, because quite often you get lime, but I find much more kind of lemon zest here. But it's not too simple. There's a kind of sneaky sort of depth in there and a great length. And there's this wonderful acidity. And I think acidity is a word that in the trade we talk about a lot, but for people who are not quite sure what that means, that's in terms of how to detect it. When you detect a wine with acidity, you can feel that it's on the sides of your tongues. So if you just leave it in your mouth, and you can feel on the sides of your tongues, sort of your mouth watering, and that's how you detect. And it's always got a lovely, and acidity, you have to have the balance, obviously, which it does. But it's lovely, and it's got a little bit of kind of peachiness as well. It's really, really delicious.
Thank you.
Cool. So I have to call out a happy birthday to Christian. Sorry, but happy birthday, Christian. I've seen there's someone's birthday. I feel like we have to say happy birthday, Christian. And then I'll let you move on to the PG reserves. Send your questions in, guys. If I've missed a few questions, I'm sorry. But send them back if it was a good one. But shall we move on to the next wine, and which is the Pinot Gris Reserve 2016.
Okay. Pinot Gris Reserve, so I have the same as well. Pinot Gris is sometimes, I would say, another forgotten grape in a way. You probably know more about Pinot Grigio, and when I go, everywhere I go, actually, people name it Pinot Grigio. Pinot Gris from Alsace is different. Aromatically speaking, texture-wise, there is nothing to do with Pinot Grigio. Our Pinot Gris is made in a dry style as well. And it is very creamy, I would say. Creamy and fruity. There's a small note of smokiness on the nose, always, that comes from the grape itself. It's characteristic from Pinot Gris in Alsace when it's picked at the right time, not like overripe, just like ripe. And it's a wonderful wine when it comes to food pairings as well. Riesling can match many different styles of dishes, as we said, but Pinot Gris as well, actually. If you have a little spiciness in the food, if you eat chicken or salmon, something creamy, something with mushrooms, it works very, very well.
There's a real note of, sorry to interrupt, but there's Jean knows that I love the Pinot Gris. Obviously, I love the Riesling, but I do love the Pinot Gris as well. It's something different. And I've always found there's a note of when you chop mushrooms, so raw mushrooms, there's a smell of raw mushrooms, and there's lovely earthiness, and for me it's so strong, and I'm getting it here with that smoky finish. It's really earthy, so yeah, it's delicious.
Yes, and this is part of our reserve range, which means we select the grapes even more strictly, because Pinot Gris, being very fragile as a grape variety, very thin skin. It's from the family of Pinot Noir, so everybody knows Pinot Noir is very fragile. It's the same for Pinot Gris, so we really pay attention to the quality of grapes, the healthiness of grapes, and of course we like to pick them when they are just ripe, not overripe. Otherwise, you can get something a little too much. And we like to preserve the acidity and the freshness in every wine we produce. So it's a great companion for, yes, many dishes, and a nice aperitif wine as well, actually. We tend to forget about that, but it works well just by itself.
There's a couple of people who've asked the same questions. I think one is my mum, but someone else, I can't see who it is, but they want to know, and this comes up quite a lot, but I think people are really interested in this, is why is the Riesling under screw cap and the Pinot Gris under cork?
That's a good question. I would just say at Trimbach, everything takes time. So little by little, one after the other. And probably for bottling as well, some wines, how do you say, prefer, like some wines have more difficulty with screw caps when it comes to, I'm losing a word, like Gewürztraminer can be a bit reductive with a screw cap, depends on the oxygen exchange need.
So the cork, so I think for the sake of people listening, cork will very, very gently oxygenate wine, whereas the screw cap doesn't. So yeah, for wines where you really want to perhaps retain aromatics and there isn't a problem with reduction, you might use a screw cap. And for others, people use cork because it will gently let air in, which will help evolve the wine. So you tend to use cork on the majority of your wines, but for a couple of your entry points, you have the option of screw cap.
Yes, so far only Pinot Blanc, Riesling, and right now we are doing Muscat for the first time as well, and maybe some others in the future. But questions of markets don't like screw caps at all. Like French market, they are not so much into it yet. And some like England or Scandinavian markets are very open when it comes to caps.
So I'm going to kind of close it off now. And I just really want to say a massive thank you. I feel like we have already just touched the sides. I'd love to sit here and taste all 9 Rieslings with you and with everyone else. But a huge thank you for giving us your time and your wisdom and your passion this evening. So thank you.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you all for watching us.